Welcome back to the Pharos Digital Dojo. This is the theory behind our Greenbelt program, and we've nicknamed our Greenbelt participants the cautious tinkerers. You've got a little bit of confidence. You've mastered the fundamentals in our prerequisite course. You've gotten through and learned how to use the basic interface in our white belt, and in our yellow and orange belts, you've built a little confidence. If you're coming here straight and this is the first time you've heard of the Pharos Digital Dojo, I highly encourage you to check out at the basics, at least our foundational prerequisite course, and definitely the white, yellow, and orange. Now, our goal is to take you from the overwhelmed observer, somebody at the never heard of it, just curious stage, all the way up to empowered advocate. And we get there, that sort of, you're here in the journey, you're the green belt. You should be now getting really confident. You understand the difference between the hype and you're able to start practical application. So in this presentation, we're going to talk about what it means to become and be a cautious tinkerer. And now we're getting from the theoretical into the practical. Now, again, this particular video is a theoretical course. This is the background, the foundation, the fundamentals. We have a group where we meet once a week. You're welcome to explore that. We won't cover that right now. But a cautious tinkerer is somebody who's dipped their toe in and they're wondering, now what? So you're beyond the hype, you're beyond the, I see there's two camps before we get here. And one camp is AI's garbage, I'm not learning anything. The other camp is AI is brilliant, it can do everything. We're going to be cautious. And I will say I'm a professional skeptic. It took me 3 years to get to the point where I know with 100% certainty my life would be less than without AI in it. And I know that. So what we're going to do today, and we always cover insight, clarity, and growth. So insight, consistency, or rhythm is more important than any complexity or hustle. A lot of people, I see it, they'll jump into AI and they'll try 1,000 different things, and then they're burnt out and go, oh, AI doesn't work, I'm going to go do something else. I am deeply, deeply inspired in all that I do by Chet Holmes and Bruce Lee. Believe it or not, I would consider them two of my favorite philosophers of this last century. Bruce Lee has a quote, and he says, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 techniques once. I fear the man who has practiced one technique 10,000 times. Now, for the record, I've heard that said as different numbers, but the point is, I would rather face off against somebody who's a generalist and who dabbles and tries everything than go against somebody who knows one thing really well as a specialist. So and you will see this day in, day out, the goal of the Pharos Digital Dojo is to teach mastery of one thing. In this particular case, it's mastery of ChatGPT. Now, Chet Holmes contributes. His is a little more modern approach, but he calls it pig-headed discipline and determination. I might have that in the wrong order, but I know it's pig-headed discipline and determination. He refers to the wisdom of Bruce Lee. Again, in business, I do not fear the competitor who does 10,000 things. I fear the competitor who does one thing 10,000 times. So consistency, consistency, consistency. If you're not going to commit to learning something, my question is, why bother starting? That's what we teach in the Digital Dojo. Next, we're going to talk about clarity. And again, I'm not telling you to throw everything out and jump in with both feet into AI and do nothing but AI. I did that. And honestly, I know that path is for me, not necessarily for other people. So I'm not here to tell you how to eliminate 100% of your business and focus on running an AI business. Fair warning, I will tell you, I've spawned at least in my network, in my clients, in my contacts, 30 businesses that used to be one thing, and now they're something very different, and they're powered by AI. So just to warn you, it is contagious, but our goal here in the green belt is to find little daily rituals, little things we can practice consistently. I'm not teaching you everything you need to know. My goal is really, really simple. I have an hour-long course, so I expect that course to yield a 10x return on investment of time. So my goal is, let's find things to eliminate 10 hours of work from your life, period. Now, that could be 10 hours of work today, or it could be 10 hours of work a week. It's up to you. My goal is just, let's find 10 hours of stuff that you were going to do anyways, and find ways to get them done better, faster, and get you that 10 hours back. And then once we've got that insight and the clarity, the growth mindset is to transform that experimentation into a reliable habit. I am a huge fan of James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. So I like to build things that become habits so that I don't have to think about it. And believe it or not, the path to mastery is not about learning one thing and practicing it over and over and over and over and over. It's about learning a whole bunch of little things that stack up to become something big. Another book, Jeff Olson's The Slight Edge, we're looking at 1% improvement every day, which compounds. So you're probably thinking to yourself, or this is what I see people at this level thinking, is their challenge is staying consistent. They need a rhythm they can trust. Now, I'm going to sound very counterintuitive to you, but I am not an expert at you. What I mean by that is I can tell you what works for me. I can't tell you with any certainty what's going to work for you. You might be like me, you dive in and you realize you speak AI natively. I believe I was literally programmed by the same people who created AI. We get each other. You might have some different opinions, might have a different approach, but find what works for you and do it. And by the way, up to this point, I give my people permission. If it's not a fit, quit. At this point, I'm going to ask you to actually make a commitment, and either it is a fit or it isn't. There's no shame in saying, you know what, I don't think AI is going to help me. I've been through your courses, Jeff. I haven't got the results. That's okay. Not everyone will benefit from AI, and not everyone can and should. However, if you want to benefit from AI, I'm here to teach you to master it. So the green belt, this is honestly the hardest belt of all of them, because you're going from, you've gotten some wins, and now you're debating, do I put more effort into this, or do I go back to the way things were? And so we're going from those few wins in the yellow belt, which I hope you've experienced and I hope you will share. Now we're moving into systemic reliability. And instead of just prompting, we're starting to build repeatable, robust processes. And by the way, if anyone tells you different, I will disagree until the day I die. I believe if we don't understand our process, using AI is just going to amplify the confusion. So start with things you understand thoroughly. You know why you do it, you know what you do, you know how you do it, you know who you do it for. Be really clear, because if you're fuzzy on what you do or how you do it, guess what? You're just going to get fuzzier, but at scale. And worse, you're going to feel confident knowing, hey, look at me, I created this standard operating procedure. But if you don't know a good one from a bad one for what you're doing, you're in trouble. So in the earlier levels, one of my big wins, I think it was in the orange belt, we talk about this the most, is taking an expert and having the expert use AI to do the thing they're an expert in better, faster, more efficient, more reliable, whatever it is. But basically, we're doing that because We want you to be able to look at something, some output from AI, and say, this is good, bad, or indifferent. Here's how I would improve it. So, first steps are baby steps. We're going to treat AI like a junior or an apprentice, and we're going to test it to make sure we can trust it. That's going to continue in the green belt, but now we're going to step a little beyond our own comfort zones as well. Now, the core things we're going to cover in the next few minutes is that true power does not come from prompting. It comes from dialogue. And this is my favorite analogy because I think it's the one that makes the most sense to me. Most people use AI wrong. And what I mean is they've got their pocket change and they stand in front of a vending machine, they drop in their coins, and then they type in A3 and they hope that the thing they wanted drops out. It's very passive, and you're receiving something and you're hoping it's the right thing. Now, if somebody mislabeled the machine or if the machine is not working, you're not going to get the outputs you wanted. Um, in a vending machine scenario, you're going to at least know, is this the thing I wanted, yes or no? What we're going to cover is using AI as a dialogue and asking questions, giving feedback, being asked questions, answering them. This should be a dialogue, not a one and done prompt. And again, we're going to identify how you personally work. I will, as I said, I'm going to share what I know. And for the record, I am 100% the world's greatest expert at teaching myself how to use ChatGPT. I want you to become that same expert for yourself. So we'll talk about things, and we do this on our weekly calls as well, where I will share what works for me and I'll share why it works for me. And then I'll show you how to customize it for you. So this is the key. And I want everybody to walk away with this one understanding. AI allows us to customize anything to us. And once we customize it to us, then we can get clearer on who we are, what we do, etc. We can help others understand us better. But it is one of those, and this goes actually back to Sun Tzu's Art of War. Um, if you know yourself and you know your enemy, you never have to fear a battle. And I think most people don't spend the time trying to know themselves. So I'm going to show you some things throughout the belt levels on how you can get more self-awareness so that you can work better with yourself and then with others. And again, once we get through the green belt, my expectation for our green belt graduates is that we'll turn those wins we've got into reliable daily habits. And really, truly, by the end of the green belt, you should have, at the very least, identified 5 or more hours a week of things that you do. They're repetitive, they're time consuming, and you could eliminate, automate, or delegate using AI. So that's kind of what we do in our digital dojo. We practice, practice, practice. Here's how we eliminate, here's how we automate, here's how we delegate. As in all of our belts, the first thing we do is we teach mindset. And I believe this is one of the weaknesses of most educational programs. We go straight to the what or the how. We often don't cover the why or the beliefs we need in order to succeed. So our goal here for every one of our Greenbelt graduates is that they truly embrace the statement, true power comes from prompting as a dialogue, not a command. So we are embracing the power of dialogue over commands. And really, truly, a lot of people overestimate how complicated using AI is because they fear that it's some mysterious computer programming. They need to know how to code. The reality is, you need to know how to communicate and you need to be curious. And again, there's the reminder, we always need to be the adult in the conversation. So it's up to us to say good AI or bad AI, you can do better. Now, one of my favorite uses, and by the way, take this with a grain of salt. Not everybody can handle this. And what I mean is the question mark is by far my favorite tool in learning, and I love it as it's my um, favorite tool in writing. The question mark is powerful. Now, the problem is if you have a period, it assumes that you understand and know something. If you have an exclamation point, you really know it and you're really emphatic about it. The question mark says, I'm open to learning more. So I love the question mark. It is my favorite. Now, I use AI as a Socratic partner. And what I do is I will get it and I will say, you are a facilitator who uses the Socratic method. Please help me learn this. And what that does, just so you know, the Socratic method is not about, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. It starts with more or less, what do you already know about this subject? What do you believe to be true about this subject? What would you like to understand better? And it's a really powerful way to learn. However, if you're not used to it, it also comes across as really annoying. If you want to annoy somebody, answer their question with a question at least 3 times in a row. Duck, because somebody may or may not want to punch you by that point. Me personally, that's how I learn. So use this at your own discretion. But what I want you to understand is not how to annoy people and be the Socratic partner they didn't ask for, but realize that the best output comes from what I call an iterative refinement process. So, again, going back to what we've discussed, we're going to ask follow up questions. We're going to provide feedback, corrections. We might set some constraints. We're not expecting perfection on the first try. And again, I hear it all the time. AI produces garbage. AI is stupid. AI hallucinates. We've already taught you a few ways we do it. We have different prompt templates and frameworks. The idea of a framework is we have a general idea of what we want to accomplish. We have a general best practice, and then we tailor it for each circumstance. And then under clarity, we want to shift our process. So we, as a consumer of AI, we need to first of all understand and define the difference between a request. At the yellow belt level, you might say, write me an email. We need to understand the difference between a request and a dialogue. And at the green belt level, we're going, write me an email. Now make the tone more authoritative. Now add a PS that includes X data point. Use this style. It is about, and I say this all the time, the reason this is called the Digital Dojo is I believe in the mantra that's most often used around martial arts, iron sharpens iron. So if you're good at what you do and you use AI well, it will actually act as your sparring partner and make you better. Now, if you're not open to feedback and you don't want to get better, guess what? You're not going to. You'll be the lazy one who says, write me an email, you'll copy and paste and call it a day. And I say this to my people, never use a response until you've had at least 3 or 4 deep dialogues where you're asking questions, you're giving feedback. This is about curiosity and communication more than anything. Now, at a bare minimum, our green belts are going to practice what we call the 3-turn rule. And instead of using, and believe it or not, I see this a lot, people will go to the prompt, they'll type in a short question, get an answer, and then they copy and paste. So we teach our people how to use a single chat thread to achieve a desired output to a desired standard. And at a bare minimum, we require 3 turns of iterative dialogue. So you might have your initial prompt, a refinement 1, refinement 2. That is a minimum, by the way, not a maximum. So really, it should be the minimum 3-turn rule. Honestly, I shouldn't admit this, but I will. I don't even read the responses to the first couple rounds because I know that it's generic garbage or average fluff, whatever you want to call it. And unfortunately, that's why people say AI is overhyped. It's because people who don't know how to use it are taking the first thing. And by the way, if you ask ChatGPT if you're brilliant, it will say you are. I promise you're not as brilliant as ChatGPT says you are. What matters is that you get better and better and you become more brilliant. But also at the end of the day, you're not brilliant until humans are willing to give you money for the things you create. And that is ultimately our goal. We are business owners, we're entrepreneurs. We want to find ways to reduce our inputs of time, energy, attention, and money into our business and increase our outputs, again, of time, energy, attention, and money in our business. So this is about being more effective, more efficient, and more profitable with more freedom, and of course, having more impact. Now, once we master the mindset, now we're looking at the skill set. And this is where we start to get into our tools and techniques. So here our core focus is to systemize or systematize, depending on where you read things, systemize wins using advanced prompt engineering frameworks. Now, you'll hear me speak very negatively about prompt engineering as a basic thing. Again, I am very, very critical of one size fits all prompts. However, frameworks, very different thing. So a prompt is again like tokens to a vending machine and you're hoping for results. Frameworks, it's basically you've built the machine and now you know what results you're going to get. So the insight here our green belts walk away with is that frameworks are leverage. And what we'll do is understand that using a structured prompt engineering framework is the foundation of turning a one-off win into a scalable, repeatable, replicatable system. So there are frameworks like Rise, React, or 5P. I'll talk about the 5P. That's sort of what we do internally. My advice to you, I personally don't use Rise or React anymore. And to be honest, I can't remember what they stand for. I think the R in both is roll. I have my own and I use it. And I want you to all understand start with someone else's framework and then build one that matters to you. So I have my own little frameworks for what I do. And we're going to teach you the 5Ps just as a starting point. And again, I want you to understand this is the starting point, not, okay, I learned it and I'm done. This is how do I use this to learn more. So here in clarity, what we want is to have our green belts master a framework. And that's a singular framework because again, you're not here to learn all the theory of using AI. You're learning how to master AI. So we're going to give you one framework that you can then personalize for yourself. So our 5P, our prompts include purpose, the process, the parameters, the persona, and the product. So purpose, what's the goal? What's the objective? Process, just really simple. What are the steps we follow? Parameters, think of this as the inputs, the outputs, the constraints. Do this, don't do that. Persona is my favorite. And honestly, I think a lot of people omit this. Persona is twofold. One is what role is the AI playing? And the other is who are we communicating to? So we're customizing we're giving it a role and we're writing it for a target audience. And then last but not least, what does the end product look like? Are we writing a blog post, LinkedIn post, YouTube video script? What are we creating? And then what we teach is to clearly document how each part of the framework improves the output of use cases that we identified back in the Orange Belt program. Now, you don't have to go back and take the Orange Belt just to understand this, but what we identified was areas of our expertise where we know the difference between a good and a bad output, and we're looking to see if we can create prompts to eliminate, automate, or delegate things that are repetitive and time consuming. And then in the growth stage here, you're going to start creating some templates. And basically, what we do with our students, and I do this with myself, we'll take our framework and we'll turn it into 3 customized, reusable prompt templates that we, the user, can fill in the bracketed variables. So, for example, we might have a topic, target audience, desired length. And basically, that's to eliminate, automate, or delegate some of the things we do that are time consuming and repetitive. Now, as always, we have our gear set badge, and this comes after we've learned the mindset, we've learned the skill set. Gear is where we're starting to get into the actual detailed work. And I think this is the badge that most people want to earn without bothering with the others. But really, truly, if you don't understand why you're doing something, how to do something doesn't matter. So, here, what we're starting to do, and this is what we make our green belts practice over and over, is we're actually building our ongoing infrastructure for reliable daily use. Again, if this is something you use once in a while, number one, you're going to forget about it. Number two, you're not going to be confident in it. So here we're about building that consistency to build confidence. So it sounds counterintuitive, but the insight here is we build our process before we decide which tools to use. So, and spoiler alert, this is a mastery of GPT. So guess what tool is the default? However, we need to understand, is ChatGPT the right tool, or should we be looking at something else? If we're doing something that something else is a better tool, that's not part of this course. So this course is focusing on processes that ChatGPT can help with. And here I want you to realize that a true flow state in work is achieved not by finding a new tool, but by organizing your best assets for instant access. I'm a huge fan of the systems we build. I love templates, checklists. I love detailed processes. I promise you will learn to love them. Or if you don't, you aren't in the right place. It's as simple as that. So under clarity, we're going to work together, and this is what we do with all of our green belts. We build what we call our Dojo quick file. And basically, in our orange belt program, we teach about certain use cases, and the goal is to take 3 of those and use our green belt templates that we've learned, the frameworks we've built and customized, into one single organized, searchable, it should say prompt framework library, but really this is in the orange belt. We created a research repository, sort of a wish list of things we'd like to tame or tackle. And now we're going to start building the materials to actually do that. Now, the outputs here can be as customized as you need it to be. Common outputs, we will see a written instruction manual. We will see step-by-step checklists. Maybe it's best practices. Maybe it's documentation, or maybe we're preparing a script or a to-do list. It really depends on your needs and what areas you've chosen as your intended use cases. So one of the defaults, if somebody comes to me and says, I don't know where to start, what I suggest we do is we'll look at one area of your business that is repeated over and over again. It's repetitive and to some degree time consuming. Now, for the record, time consuming and repeatable are up to you to define. But my rule of thumb is if I do something once a day and it takes me at least an hour, that is something I want to tackle first. So from there, then I will share what I do in that particular thing, and we'll work with the tools we have, the prompts, the frameworks, and we'll create a standard operating procedure to document what currently is, and then we'll use ChatGPT to optimize that and create a standard operating procedure for our ideal, what should be. And basically, what we're going to do is look at how do we get from where we are today to where we want to be with minimal risk, minimal disruption, minimal time, maximum output, maximum effectiveness. And by the way, we use Pareto principle a lot. There's a lot of fun there. I will show you how we use it to eliminate noise and to increase things that add us enormous value to our world. And then true growth is where we start to get into tool native integrations. Maybe we're going to use our templates in a non-ChatGPT tool that you use daily. So I've built a workflow around Google Docs. I've created templates for my docs, my Google Sheets, my Google Slides, even my Google Drive. And we'll even talk about maybe those of you who want to use third-party writing apps. I'm going to be blunt. I don't. I think it's a waste of time. I've gotten really good at using ChatGPT to write. But basically what we want to do is find where your workflow currently resides and figure out ways to integrate ChatGPT into those tools. So I actually have a process for how do I take output from ChatGPT, put it into Google Docs, format it, and make it retrievable going forward. Now we only have 2 badges left. Community badge, here we're talking about collaboration. And I really, truly want people to understand that ChatGPT, it is a great tool to use in isolation, and it's an even better tool to use for collaboration. So I'll give you some examples, we'll talk it through, but basically here, our core focus is to stress test our systems through shared practice. So if I write a system that only I can follow, I've just guaranteed job security for me doing that thing in my business forevermore. If I create a system that other people can follow, then I've guaranteed some freedom because now I can either delegate it or I can get somebody else to help me delegate it. Or maybe, as is often the case, I can identify things that I should eliminate or automate before we even get to talking about delegate. So insight here, we strongly encourage our green belts to embrace the wisdom of the crowd. So we have a lot of conversations, meetings, we have some collaborative tools we use, but the idea is if you do something on your own, good for you. It's probably okay for you. However, if you use the wisdom of the crowd to run some quality assurance for you, you can produce something that becomes better. And believe it or not, I've actually seen people turn their systems into a product they can sell to others in their industry. So we discuss this a lot. A system is not reliable until someone else can use your template, your system, and achieve a near identical high quality result. And again, we don't need to get here overnight. We're not striving for perfection today. We're striving for complete over time. And again, my benchmark is, really truly, am I 1% better today than it was yesterday? If yes, I won the day. If not, I need to go back and find a way to improve. And by the way, using a crowd and saying, hey, everybody, look what I did. There's always somebody who will see something you didn't see. They'll identify your blind spots, your biases, your gaps. Trust me, feedback is invaluable. It will help you in so many ways. I mean it, iron sharpens iron. So, under clarity, we push for what we call the reproducibility challenge. And here we teach people how to clearly document the exact steps for using one of their templates, one of their checklists examples. And we're ensuring it is completely clear to appear without any verbal explanation. Now, this might feel a little petty, it might feel mundane and repetitive, but until you can do this, where some random stranger can step in and complete the thing, you haven't documented it, you've retained it as a job for you. Now, I'm going to share my little bias, and this is what we teach in the dojo. I had the good fortune as a teenager to work in a McDonald's franchise. And the franchise owner, he was a bit crazy, and he was always telling me how lucky I am. And timing's everything, people. I'd be doing something like, taking out the garbage or cleaning out the grease traps or something really not nice. He'd even come in when you're cleaning toilets and he'd lecture on it. But he would always say, "Oh, you're getting such a great business education. You're so lucky. You can go to the Ivy League business schools and you're not going to get this level of education." And I'd be looking at him while I'm plunging the toilet or throwing out the garbage, going, "You're kidding, right?" I thought he was nuts. But what I realized, and the genius of McDonald's is not in their locations or in their food quality. It's the fact that everything they do is broken down into the most basic steps. They've all been tested and optimized, and they're all reproducible by teenagers. And if you don't believe me, just think about this for a minute. How long would your business last if you turned the keys over to a team of teenagers with minimal adult supervision? If you're an accountant and you're running an accounting practice, I guarantee that practice would crumble in a day because nothing would be done, or anything that was done wouldn't be done right. No offense to high school students, but they are not qualified accounting technicians or professionals. So think about what in your business, and by the way, I'm not saying that an accounting practice could be run by teenagers. What I'm saying is look for the things that the lowest level employee can do so that your highest level employees are only doing the things where they add the most value. So, big example, I see this all the time in professional planes. Usually you'll have somebody who knows Microsoft Word inside and out and will do the actual formatting and layout of Word document. Whereas if you've got an expert who is an expert in something in their professional field, they might dictate or type up an ugly looking letter and then give it to somebody else to polish it. So the key is the experts should do the things they're experts in, and support people should do the things the experts aren't experts in. And now in our group, we do an exchange. So this is where we start to see true growth. We share our best documented templates, like I said, prompt frameworks and templates within our Greenbelt community. You don't have to join our community. You can do this with your peers, with your colleagues. And basically what people do is they're testing one another's ideas to make sure they're getting reproducible and system level clarity. So this is about feedback. And for the record, I hate the phrase constructive feedback. I think that assumes we're all delicate little snowflakes and we need to be treated gently. We're entrepreneurs, we're business owners. We can take straight feedback. By the way, if you don't like straight feedback, probably not. You haven't made it to this level listening to me, because I've probably annoyed you already. But the goal is iron sharpens iron. Nobody leaves the green belt level until they've created something that a peer can test and reproduce. And basically, this is where we're doing some peer level learning. Your peers are going to give you the feedback to make you better. Now, for the record, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I don't like that kind of feedback." Okay, you're probably not an entrepreneur because I am feedback hungry. I want to know, could I do this better? Could I do it faster? Could I do it easier? Can I be more effective? Can I be more efficient? That's the goal of this, the community badge for collaboration. And by the way, you win by giving feedback because, in theory, when you recognize something that didn't work for you, hopefully you've learned something to apply back to what you do. And one of the fundamental questions we always ask at every level, after every conversation, we do this in our mastermind, we ask the question, how does this apply to me? And basically, what we're doing is we're forcing our brains to look at something and see if it fits. And by the way, sometimes the answer is it doesn't apply to me. That's okay. But we're always thinking about it before we move on. And then our last badge level, and this is where it starts to get fun, this is the attitude badge. So, what we've done, we've taught people the mindset, the skill set, we've taught them how to use the tools, we've built that collaboration, and now we're building respect and consistency. And a lot of people get this a little bit confused. Respect applies first and foremost to yourself. You're respecting yourself as a student. You're respecting the fact that you don't know everything. You need to learn. We're being gentle and treating ourselves with respect. And once we know what respect feels like for us, then we're better able to give it to others in our community. So the core focus here is we want to take the sporadic few wins that have maybe been spread throughout the the white, yellow, and orange, and we want to turn those into reliable daily habits. And this is where our insight for you is to develop a core rhythm that will lead to your discipline of becoming a master. And again, mastery is not doing complicated things once. It's about doing the accumulation of the simple, high leverage things every day without fail that lead to that one big result, the mastery. Now, here under clarity, we start to build what we call a must run system. Again, we want to build habits, we want consistency. So we recommend that you look for and identify at least 2 tasks that recur. I prefer daily, but maybe you have weekly things. I don't care if it's daily or weekly, but I do prefer, actually that's a lie, I prefer daily, let's be blunt. If you're doing something weekly, it's probably not big enough of a pain for you. I guarantee if you do something daily, you're going to want to solve that. That's where you're going to see compounding results quickly. Now, we allow people, it's entirely up to you. I encourage most of our people to do 2 work tasks to start, but we do allow people to pick 1 work and 1 personal. Because at the end of the day, if we can help you save time on something that's repetitive, maybe a little tedious, and a little time consuming, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's work related or personal, we've still helped you as a person. And again, the whole point of this, we're building the tools to grow a business. So my advice is start at work and then you can look to the personal. And for the record, I will not say you're not allowed to talk about that's personal. I care about, we're human beings. We all have 24 hours in a given day, 7 days in a week. Let's find ways to optimize. And basically, you're going to commit to running these 2 recurring tasks through your new system, whether it's a framework, a template, and we're going to make it solidified as its rightful place in your day-to-day, week-to-week routine. So think about the things you'd like to eliminate, automate, delegate. And again, once you've mastered one, let's look for the next and the next and so on. So in this level, part of the graduation to our next belt level, which is the blue belt, we encourage people to build a 21-day ritual. Now, for the record, I am not a petty dictator. I personally am willing to believe you if you say, Jeff, I did this for 21 consecutive days. I don't need a spreadsheet. I don't need a time card. I don't need some sort of proof. But trust me, if you're being consistent, we will all know, including you. So here, people want to take shortcut and say, well, I did it. Give me my next level belt. Okay, but I promise you, if you build a weak foundation today, you're going to crumble tomorrow. So we encourage people, and by the way, 21 consecutive days, just to be clear, I'm not an ogre. If you work 5 days a week, log in every work day. Now, for the record, if you're doing something personal and you do it every day, 7 days a week, then why wouldn't you try for that consecutive streak? So I'm not here to make you log in on a weekend. I'm just saying be consistent. If you're doing something work related, every time you're working, try to add it to that work day. Basically, what you want to do is test and optimize your new systematic workflow for your must-run tasks. What are the most critical? Where are you going to see the biggest value? And really, truly, this establishes the habit as a core, non-negotiable rhythm in the digital dojo. And I'm going to be honest, I don't care if it's 21 days or 12 days or 56 days. There's a point where this becomes so ingrained in your system, you can't imagine life without it. That's the key lesson here, not did I meet a minimum number of days. If you haven't built this into your workflow, you haven't learned the lesson of the green belt. Now, in the final time, we have about 3 minutes remaining on this. I'm just going to share a couple of frameworks that have worked well for me. And by the way, people have stolen this particular framework, made it their own. And I see people selling this framework. This works. Now, personally, I'd ask that you don't steal it and sell it as your own. If you want to borrow it, you're welcome to use it for personal use. If you're going to monetize it, be nice and maybe send me a royalty or at least buy me a coffee or lunch next time we get together. My number one framework, and I share this over and over, I will share it today. I always start by defining two things. Number one, what is my goal? What do I hope to accomplish? And what is the purpose? Why am I doing this? So a goal and a purpose. And then what I do is I will ask ChatGPT based on that background of my goal and my purpose. I might share a little bit of this works, this doesn't work. I know this, I don't know that. Once I share the background, I will say, based on my background information, what categories of experts can guide me in understanding this problem? So I'm going really wide to go narrow. We'll get there. And then based on my background and my category of experts, I will ask for each category who are 3 world-class experts that would have insight on this topic. And then based on my background information, the goals and the purpose, and the categories of experts and the experts, I will then ask ChatGPT to help me identify best practices, leveraging the insights from my experts and expert categories, create best practices for how to achieve this outcome. Now, I always extend that and I'll say, help me plan, implement, document, and optimize. So give me best practices for each of those 4 things. ChatGPT gives me a great little list. And by the way, use areas first that you are comfortable in so that you know roughly, is this good output, is it bad output? And then once I've got the actual best practices, I will say, based on my goals, my purpose, my expert categories, my experts, and my best practices, help me create individual processes for each of plan, implement, document, and optimize. So I always have a 4-part process for everything. You can tweak it for whatever works for you, but that is our number one secret. If you use that, you can identify the best of the best. because what it does is it takes the platform as a whole and reduces it down to an individual expert. Now, that is the end of the theory for our Greenbelt program. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, welcome. For those of you watching this on a platform, we have a paid program. And if you want to learn more, you can visit our website, pharosbusiness.com/digital-dojo. Now, the difference, I get this a lot. People say, well, why would I pay when I can join and watch this for free on other platforms or at a lower price? The reason is you get the theory for free, the practice, the application, the expert nuances, the customization. That's what we actually do in the Digital Dojo. I would literally go insane trying to help everybody in the world for free. However, this is my passion. I want to help people. So I give away the theory, and then people pay to come and practice the actual practical implementation.